Hello, it's Mr. Carroll again with my second video for our pandemic and public health series. Today we're going to be trying to understand maps and how to read maps and kind of some of the information out there, because some of it can look really scary, and when you get into it, it actually isn't as scary as you first see. So here's a map from The Guardian, a paper from the United Kingdom, that is showing the amount of confirmed cases of COVID-19 in the US. And this map was taken on April 30th, and so of course that number can change all over the place. Okay, and it looks really scary, right? It's got circles to kind of show you how many cases are happening, and the circles get bigger as you get more cases, and like you see certain areas that correspond nicely to cities have really, really big circles. And so it just looks like New York and Boston and Chicago and Los Angeles are just places you shouldn't be right now, and it's kind of just overwhelming. And it's hard to kind of compare that to where we live here in Durango, because you're really comparing apples to oranges, right? New York as a city has 8 million people in it. Denver doesn't even top 1 million. It's at 600,000. Durango is at 16,000. All right? So New York is number one in terms of city population at over 8 million. All right? Denver's 19. Durango doesn't even hit the top 300 in the census data. So it's hard to compare apples and oranges because these populations seem really different, and so total cases are not going to really help us out in this. All right? And also, when you start to get to these big numbers, it's really, really hard to kind of understand them. And that's why we need what's known as a ratio to do it. All right? We're going to pause for a second and look at and try and wrap our head around million versus a billion. Okay? So let's imagine 1 second is 1 second. Okay? And so that means, and that's the same if you're, this is to help us understand these really big numbers. Ideally, we're also kind of comparing them to people and keeping the idea of population in mind. But 1 second is to 1 second. So 1,000 seconds is 16 minutes, or about the same amount of time it takes you to sing the Circle of Life song 4 times. Okay? 1 million seconds is a 12-day vacation. All right? 1 billion seconds is 30 years. That's like the average career length of most adults in the United States. 1 trillion seconds, 30,000 years. That's longer than human civilization has kind of been around as we know it. So you can see that when you get into these larger numbers, it's really hard to compare it. It's hard to compare 12 days to 30 years. And so that's where the idea of using a ratio, all right, comes in to help us kind of compare the severity or whatever we're trying to compare. In this case, it's going to be severity. And that's where we get the word per capita. It's a term that a lot of public health officials are going to be using. It's literally Latin. It means through the heads. Caput, singular, head, capita, plural, heads. And it's a ratio to kind of help us understand. And so this is the New York Times map, interactive map, again taken from April 30th, 2020. And looking at it now, all those little red dots have kind of disappeared a little bit. Chicago doesn't even look that scary, okay? Because we've gotten this ratio down that we're now able to compare specific areas to each other as if they were the same kind of number in there, all right? And that shows us that, yes, Chicago still has some severity in terms of cases, but it's not as bad as it had looked on that first map. There's a couple of pockets all over the place. The one you see in Idaho on the left-hand side of the map was from a ski resort. And what this shows us is that our washing our hands, using hand sanitizer, sneezing into our elbows, and doing the physical distancing that we're doing that forced the school building to close down has kind of helped reduce the severity of everything. All right? And not all maps are equal, all right? When we look at maps, we really want to understand what we're reading here, okay? So the map on the right-hand side of the screen is from Fox News. It's showing all the counties in the United States, but it doesn't give us a scale. We can kind of surmise that white is very few coronavirus cases, and dark red is a lot of coronavirus cases. You can see the area in Southern California around Los Angeles and the area up in New York around New York City are really, really dark. All right. And then the areas in like Montana and South Dakota and Nebraska are kind of whiter, and the scale goes between the two. But it's really doesn't give us, it just gives us total cases, and it doesn't give us any numbers to wrap our head around. So it looks from this that like everything is terrible. Okay. The map again here from The Guardian is using circles to kind of give us the same information, okay? So the bigger the circle, the more cases, all right? And at least they have a total number of cases at the top, and you can kind of hover over to see more information when you go online. And both are taking this information from Johns Hopkins, right? But they're just showing it in a couple of different ways. But if we go to the New York Times map, they have both total cases on one choice, but then also per capita. And you can kind of see that over across the United States, it's actually not as the severity of it is not as dire as we would come to believe. Okay, it still shows that New York is really, really dense with a lot of cases, and that would make sense because it's got a really high population density, and a lot of people have to take public transportation, and they don't have parks to exercise in, or they don't have outdoor space like we do in Durango, so you have to exercise in kind of more with more people around, okay? But still, all those other circles across the nation, such as in Los Angeles and Washington, have kind of slowed down a little bit, and you can see the effects of how our washing our hands and our social distancing have helped us with that. All right. And here's just kind of some more numbers to help us understand. All right. So La Plata County has 56,000 people in it. Okay. And it's got 62 confirmed cases. All right. And this is one of those diseases that if you have been tested, it has to be reported by the Department of Public Health, which you learned about on Friday. And so it's one of those things that it is definitely being reported on. So we can really trust a lot of this information. Okay. And so that means less 0.1% of the whole population has gotten this, right? Because we did a really good job. We closed our school buildings down. We stopped movie theaters. We stopped public gatherings of all kinds to kind of really, really slow that spread or flatten that curve as we people have been talking about. You can see in Colorado has a population of about 5 million people, and it's only got 14,000 cases, so 0.2%, okay? Of the whole population there. All right. The US population is 331 million people. All right. And we only have about 1 million cases confirmed across the whole nation. So that's 0.3%. Okay. And then you go to the world, it's 7.8 billion people. Okay. Remember, we were talking about the differences in size there, where 1 million seconds is about 12 days, where 1 billion seconds is about 30 years. So it's kind of the same thing there. The numbers are getting bigger, but they're showing that 0.04% of the whole world has confirmed cases of this. So it's because of everyone taking this very seriously and trying to be really careful about it that this has kind of slowed everything down. Okay, so that's all for the video today. Hopefully it kind of helps you understand our maps a little bit better and understand the importance of using a ratio to help us explain these numbers. All right, and it'll hopefully help you kind of figure out the assignment that I have connected with this video. So as always, thanks for watching. I hope this helped. If you have any more questions, feel free to email me or write a comment below. And have a great day and stay safe out there.